It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I love our road shows up and down the state of California. Today we're in Kern County and we are joined by Nick Ortiz. He is the president and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. And sir, if we were talking 10 years ago about Bakersfield, I feel as if our conversation would be a little different.
Yeah.
Talk to me about 2006 Bakersfield.
Sure. So, I think, 2006 Bakersfield, we were like a lot of cities in California,
Yes.
in the West even, where we were experiencing a huge boom and really almost the peak of a huge boom in development. You saw a lot of housing, a lot more commercial development coming through Bakersfield. Really, between the time period of 2000 and 2006, you saw our population grow exponentially almost. And, we were really, reliant on this development, this building to kind of keep our economy going.
And so in 2007, 2008, the bottom was pulled out from under us.
Yeah.
And Bakersfield, like Stockton, like Victorville, like so many cities through our state, really hit on hard times.
Yeah.
How bad was it?
So, we were one of the foreclosure and short sale for housing epicenters of the country. I think Vanity Fair did an article on a failed development in West Bakersfield, and it was, this is why Lehman Brothers failed, because they invested and overinvested in these types of things. And, I think what you saw was, beyond the economic metrics of, the economic loss, the job loss, you saw a lot of pain in our local economy.
And
a lot
I
of
appreciate
neighbors.
you saying that, because I think it's so easy to look at the numbers, but we forget the faces.
Yep.
And when you consider what happened in San Bernardino County, in Kern County, it's heartbreaking.
It really is.
Devastating. And what's even more difficult to really stomach is that here we are coming out of a recession, at least statewide, and yet Kern continues to struggle a bit because of different forces. And that really deals with Mother Nature and energy prices.
Yeah.
We have a drought and we have oil prices literally falling through the bottom that was pulled out during the foreclosure crisis.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me about today in Kern County.
Well, the reason we made it through the recession is really, ag and oil, and the fact that those two pillars of our economy were able to remain strong throughout it and repurpose a lot of maybe the labor, the job loss into these industries. And so we saw the benefit of, really high oil prices, drove activity levels in the oil fields here that really, sometimes in a high cost state like California to produce energy, maybe it wouldn't have been economic, but because of those high energy costs, it caused a lot of investment in Kern County.
So like you said, that helped the county make it through the toughest of times.
Yeah.
But as the rest of the state is recovering, part of the reason for that recovery is energy prices are dropping.
Yes.
Which is exactly the opposite
and
of what Kern County would want.
Yeah, it seems like we're always not in sync with with the nation or the state. Where if there's stuff going on that is negative in the state economy, we seem to be doing okay.
And then we look at ag.
Yeah.
And boy, this drought has been just brutal and painful. And what's particularly brutal and painful, it seems like Kern County-ish is just where El Nino was supposed to hit, and yet it didn't.
Yeah.
It was supposed to go basically Kern County south.
Yeah.
Instead, it went north.
Yes.
And we didn't see the rain we needed here in Southern California.
Yeah. And we have multiple issues when it comes to ag and water. But really, the fact, and we tried and we were lucky enough to partner with some of our other business organizations and corporations to get the message out, because when you talk about development, when you talk about oil and gas, when you talk about ag, water is critical to all of those industries. Water equals jobs. jobs in Kern County. And so we try to get the message out that even if El Nino, even if it went beyond our expectations, even as the biggest El Nino that we had, it was not going to solve our issue.
But the
fact that it was a dud.
It was a complete dud. But here's the question. It was a dud in Southern California. It was definitely not a dud in Northern California.
Well, to a certain extent, because this El Nino was not, it was wet, but it wasn't as cold. And so our biggest storage in California is the Sierras and the snowpack. And we're higher than we were in earlier phases of this drought, but we are not where we need to be in order to ensure that that water flows into Central California and into Southern California to power the economy.
Now, as you know, the governor and the state water board has eased mandatory conservation measures. But local governments, local water districts can still impose their own conservation measures. And in Southern California, I have to think local water districts are still imposing those. Are they here in Bakersfield, Kern?
So we still have conservation standards. They've eased a bit.
Okay.
I mean, I think overall, what we're more concerned about from an economic standpoint, I mean, this is about, is your yard green or can you run your fountain? From an economic standpoint, the bigger issue for us is not necessarily conservation standards, but the groundwater regulation that the state's putting on us, where, every area is going to have to decide who uses and how much of their groundwater. And for an area that is reliant on ag, that water even has a power in terms of industry and energy and oil and gas development because of the types of operations we have here. I mean, that really is a concern for us.
So let's talk about groundwater, because like you said, last summer, California became a state that regulates. Even Texas had regulated groundwater. Now we're regulating. But we do have time to figure out a groundwater management plan. In Kern County, are the stakeholders coming together to figure this out?
I mean, I think it's been tough and there are growing pains because we have so many water districts, we have so many industries that are reliant on it, but I think every industry, every government agency is really trying to do their level best to serve their stakeholders, and if you're an elected official, serve your constituents and develop the best plan. I think we all recognize that if we don't do it and we don't look out for ourselves and we don't do it within the boundaries that the state has set up, then the state's going to come and tell us how to use our water. And for a resource-based economy like Kern County that's reliant on ag and oil, that's just something that we can't risk.
Let me ask you about one of your crops.
Sure.
And that is almonds, or some call them almonds.
Almonds, yeah.
I remember almonds became the scapegoat du jour last year because apparently it takes a gallon of water to make one almond. And you also can't fallow almond trees because of the way they grow. But almonds are very lucrative, especially because so many of them are shipped to Asia, which brings up a whole host of other issues. Should we be using our water to ship almonds to Asia? But how are the almond crops doing today?
Well, I think
here in Kern.
Yeah, I think when you look at, overall, when you look at nut producers here in Kern County, I mean, they are struggling. I mean, a lot of them have made this transition. And I would say if you talk to anybody in ag, they're going to have some real issues with that, that study and that contention about how much water goes into that. And I think, where we really came down is, farmers had to make certain choices, especially when the state started to constrain water developments that came down through the projects, the state water projects, Central Valley Project. And
there was no water coming through those projects. Now at least you're getting more than 5% allocation.
Exactly, and they're still paying the full amount. And so they got to make decisions about what is going to be the most resilient, how are they going to be able to control water budgets in certain situations. And for certain folks, row crops just didn't make sense. But now, I think we're really at a point where we're going to have to make a real decision about how we go forward. And on the trade piece of it, I mean, I would say that, even though, yes, we're growing almonds, they're not all going to California, but they're feeding the nation. They are helping to correct some of our trade imbalance with other countries. And I think that overall, that's a positive thing for Kern County and California.
His name is Nick Ortiz. He is the president and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. We're in Kern County today. Brad Pomerance, Charter Local Edition.